Good morning, everybody. Let's get some charts up here. So, decent move off of this low of support, and now it's into resistance. Looking at the S&Ps here. Good morning, Gerald. A little bit extra room here to the top of these pivots. As always, we look to the left, and we've got lots of earnings. The big stocks that are still yet to come out. Tesla's running here. See, LRCX has survived its earnings. Doesn't look so bad, it's already down a whole bunch. But for techs there, semiconductors that are beaten down. We'll see if the worst is over for them. As you can see, the S&Ps here are right at the 200 MA and what's to the left there. So we got those converging moving averages lined up with that. So just based on support, resistance, could this bear market bounce be over? As I mentioned yesterday, I think it was in MT Live. The best setups tend to have turns. Turns after a momentum move tend to have the best setups tend to have 3 bars, which obviously would put us into next week. So to have an immediate turn here, I don't think so, especially with so many earnings that'll be coming out into the end of the month. Investors will be looking for, of course, Apple and so on, which is next week, right? A week from today, actually. So a lot of time ahead, and we'll see how they deal with this resistance area and whether they can get through that. And of course, the next resistance area isn't all that far away. And let me just duplicate that and just kind of put it up there. Just really puts us in this wide whippy trading range. And, it just continues to be day to day, as we saw yesterday. Tech was getting beaten down while everything else was tended to held up pretty darn well. Yes, I'm just looking at XLF, which, XLF, KBE, which is still in downtrends, but had decent reversals off of the low. So somewhat encouraging within an overall mess. So that provided the short-term strength for that. And as it comes up into here and converging moving averages, price resistance, that stalls, market at resistance, probability of stalling. Qs, and up here, just back and forth, right? Showing relative weakness, top of the range, bottom of the range, a little bit above the middle of the range. QQQ looked like maybe would get all the way back down to the bottom. Now gapping up 345-ish, 345. Take, you see it's, up near the top of the red bar. So that's a plus, but making continuous neutral. Sometimes we call this a Christmas tree pattern, just red, green, back and forth. And we wait to see what direction it's going to take. So not too much different than yesterday. The word I used was kind of in the middle of limbo there. But additional strength in the S&Ps, getting up toward the resistance area, closing the void, which we spoke about. YM doing better, closing the void, getting a little further toward that resistance area there. 43.85 for tomorrow. Well, it depends on kind of what happens today. If it holds on to the gain, it's reasonable to think that it could be right, and which I suspected would be the case. So, and then probably 4,400 is pretty good. Do it today's open? Well, you are McGraw. So I would say probably, open or by 10 o'clock to see if things peter out. But I think it's a reasonable bet. You got lines in the sand, you know, as we discussed yesterday, as we look at any kind of credit spread, what are our lines of defense? And what does that do for us? Well, two things. It allows us to assess what's happening without any real panic, right? Even if things are going against us, and we can see what the reactions are to those lines. So, saying 4,400 is a big open interest. All right, so if it comes here and we're selling a credit spread down here, and then things are coming down, obviously our credit spread is now producing a loss. Well, what happens when it gets here? Does it hang there and it can't bounce? Which leads us to, hey, maybe I better reconsider this. Well, I've got another line of sand here. What do I want to do? Well, if I've got multiple contracts, maybe I want to, take a little bit of a hit on one of them or two of them or whatever it might be to reassess. And if it pops back up, it's like anything else. It's when you have a stock or a market or any position that's one of some uncertainty, you can remove part of the position, you can put it back on again, ebb and flow with things. And granted, you're creating commissions, but the cost of doing business shouldn't be a point of decision making in the moment of making those decisions. And so definitely something to consider. But coming to the top of the range, I didn't even look up here because we'd be talking about it tomorrow. But what about if there was something up above 4,600? I mean, if they're building, positions down here, which are increasing, the premiums in those options, that's what draws our attention to it. But, with credit spreads, I prefer to fade the move than, getting in, would it look that, this is going to hold, which is fine. We've got a wide range bar up here, which is a power bar and it's consolidating, but it's not a wide range bar, out of a range, such as something like this, which would be okay down here. Would there be any premium? If there was, when it's expiring in 1 or 2 days, we consider it to be a no-brainer. Right? In regards to letting me know 45.85 is decent. So 45.85, look, it's up at resistance. It's got to get through 4,500. It's got to run up there. So, you've got areas to assess what's going on, and they're going to expire tomorrow. So it's not like we're looking at into 30 days or 2 weeks or even a week. And so we can manage that with that. All right. All right. So YM we looked at coming up into resistance. The Russell yesterday, the thoughts were, hey, this should provide a decent opportunity. Why? Because it's got room to go up, and it's still got room to go up. So, if the banks are holding up today, and if biotechs, which I haven't looked at today, if they're holding up. So, when I'm trading this, I'm looking at XBI on a 5-minute chart. What is it doing? Is that 5-minute chart trending up or is it trending down? And then KBE. Is it trending up or is it trending down? Are they in agreement? Be in agreement with your bias for the Russell 2000. Oils have some effect, of course, but those two seem to be the main. Now, if they're in opposition of each other, which one is stronger? Of course, you're looking at the structure of what you're trading. Ultimately, that is, the decision maker. But what affects this, right? It's a big help. It is to me. And then, of course, looking at, the VIX, which way is it going, up or down? Is it at support? Is it at resistance? So this is at this pivot. Say here, it's up a little bit here, pre-market, but it's got room to go down. So looking at this, looking at what's at resistance, what isn't at resistance, what are the possibilities and probabilities. Well, if the VIX was to come down here at this low where it made this abrupt reversal, I want to know, right? You should know. So you don't have to stare at it during the day if you don't want to, but set an alert. Know if it's coming down there. All right. Bitcoin continues to show some strength. For a while now, we've talked about the correlation between this and the broader markets, which the broader markets topped out when this made that new high reversal, and it's been down and the market's down and, choppy since, and markets have been choppy. This is showing some strength. Markets are showing some strength. This is something you can put on your radar to say, hey, what if it hits this area up here where there's resistance? Set an alert. It gets there. There's going to be sellers. Look at everything else. Maybe your longs. It could be time to lighten up. This helps us with our decision-making process throughout the trading day. Kind of like looking at your dashboard and driving your car and, hey, red check engine light came on. Uh-oh, I better reassess here. That kind of thing. Or is everything running well? And things aren't at these reference points. Crude oil, stabilized here. So when I sent something like this, it's like here it made this retest, right? It made this monster move. So odds are it was going to correct, and it did. And if you go back and look at the pre-market videos, I spoke about the depth of correction and the angle of correction, and looking for this to make a retest pattern, which it did. Now it's in the middle of nowhere, kind of like the markets are in a sense, and the weekly chart is still consolidating its gains. So looking at support, kind of a large red bar there. Does it stay in the upper half? Does this move back up again? If it can negate that red bar, well, that's a good sign for crude oil and oil stocks. If it breaks this low here, this little bottoming tail bar low, it opens up the door to lower. And so that was a nice buying spurt that happened a little while ago. Silver down, and a little bit of a disappointment. I mean, we knew sellers were going to be up here, but, just more of a mess. And gold here, holding up better. Again, a little more of a disappointment. This was looking good, but doesn't mean, it's done. It's still, GLD still looks good. And where it's pulled back to, I was kind of hopeful. Look, my view was this could continue to move up. The Qs would break this low and head down. We've got interest rates that have been rocketing. The 5-year looks like, it's within striking distance of 3%. That isn't good for the market. So you have to be keeping an eye on the exit door with this market, because there's just things like this happening that are not bullish. So, enjoy the long side where it is. There's short sides that look great as well. So you've got trading opportunities on both sides. Whereas if everything was so bullish, it'd be like, why would I bother? With the weak ones, and vice versa. So that's what we're dealing with right now. And until things break one way or the other, earnings coming. I don't even know what's going on with the Ukraine and Russia lately. That seems to be a little more quiet than it was. And then, all the other things that the markets and we worry about on a day-to-day basis before we risk our money. So, there you have it. To you, Dan. When you have a moment, could you review SPY chart? T-Buck, you always want to look at that SPY chart. Yeah. So, it's the same as the S&Ps. It's up here, 348, 349. It's up at this resistance area there. 450 is a big level. It's the top of these pivots up there. You got support at 440. And then ultimately, this swing low, which is going to take today. Well, No, yeah, that's a higher low. After today is complete, tomorrow you'll see this. The software will mark this as pivot low down there. So in essence, you've got a trading range going on here, and the assessment is the same, as to what I said. So I don't need to repeat it.
All right, good morning. Yeah, remember yesterday scanning, we found a number of longs and shorts, and I went ahead and set new alerts on the shorts because if they trigger in a weak market, then they look fantastic. And actually, I posted a couple of them official already. Look at Zoom. If this takes out yesterday's low, it kind of looks like a magnet to the prior low. Zulu looks horrible. Let me set an alarm on that. 45.50. Daku, Piton. So many of the typically weak ones here. The former stay-at-home things are still weak. Costco missed the ideal entry. Yesterday was the ideal entry per put spread. Home Depot also. That was a nice little bottom for a put spread, but the juice wasn't as much as I wanted. Tesla, obviously, getting everyone excited here. Do you remember, Greg, that we purposely in MT Live yesterday? We said, what's our bias going to be if it gaps over today's high? And we're like, well, provided it's not too extended, 5-minute high and, put spread. So it is a huge gap. Almost 10% is huge. But this will be, let's watch it within the first 30 minutes. But this is a fantastic put spread gap. SQM, I just saw on the ticker when Greg was talking. This is a power uptrend. Look at the railroad track. And this is the turn. And it's breaking out. So that looks good on a pullback. I just saw Xerox going by the ticker, getting whacked here for some reason. That's a big, nasty gap on a big tech stock. Wow. Goggle had a nice breakout, pulling in, gapping up. Bullish weekly, monthly. That's worth watching. Let it settle down. BITO, we're already in. We're short the 24 put spread. It's gapping over a red bar. So I moved the stop to yesterday's low. And this is a Bitcoin stock. So let's go to the usual suspects. The stocks have really been lagging though. The currencies. Look at this. Look at Riot. 100% retracement. That's weakness. You might get a day trade out of here, but I got no interest in a swing there. Airbnb is not earnings, but I just noticed a big gap. If this can get over yesterday's high though, then it'd be a no-brainer put spread. MJ, New Jersey is now smoking pot freely, trying to raise money, I guess. And I scanned a bunch of pot stocks and there's just still no patterns on the daily. It's ugly. Part of that I think is because federally, they're, fat chance of getting passed. CCI, I guess, was earnings gapping down. What shows $3, but I don't see the gap. LRCX was down, recovered. VMI, light volume, you're gone, stalled, flat, no pattern. Lester, transport, gapping up, could be a put spread. Raoul, XPEV. XPEV for what? good looking short roll. So it has to go under the low, but yeah. Yeah, I actually looked at a couple EV stocks also because of Tesla and they're weak. So yeah, X500 yesterday's low, sure. Target gap fill. KNX, Climo had earnings here, gapping down a little bit. I posted this UNP also. We'll see, now it's giving it up. This was a Climo with a retest. And I saw it at 252 this morning, but now it's giving it up. So I got no interest, at least as of right now. What's your question, Thomas? We shorted the 130 puts on that yesterday. Dow gapping up to 69. Now, oh, no worries. I just didn't know what your question was. So I don't know how to respond to it. Things that go straight up or straight down into earnings and then gap in that same direction. My bias is just, my bias doesn't mean I'll do it, but my bias is to short it. So there's a short-term exhaustion gap. So 30-minute low, my bias is a call spread on that. BHP, I noticed a couple of these material stocks are down. BHP, bearish gap. Alcoa, bearish gap. So both of those are call spread ideas. DGX, I don't see where you're gapping, but nice retest. That'd be a put candidate. Put candidate, maybe 30-minute high will come back. That's a bottoming pattern. I can't see where it's gapping. Slug, I can't see the gap. CSX, put spread. If you can do it under, the week's low. Gulf Lima, it trades sloppy, but that's a closing wide range breakout. So that would be a put spread idea. Key is a bank, gapping down, no pattern. XLF though, I just glanced up. XLF is acting very well. Look at that 15-minute chart. It's up 3 bars, all those converging MAs. So the daily is nothing, but just looking at this 15, that's beautiful. Pre-market chart. Jets are flying here today. AAL is up big. UAL $50. It's gap in a resistance. There's no pattern, but looks like the sector is definitely bottomed. ALK, those were all 3 earnings stocks, but no patterns. But that's going to help the transports also. DGX, I see one print up here, but we'll come back. Pool 450, I see a print. Put spread idea. AT&T, do you remember you all? This was a spin-off day, but it was gapping down. And I'm like, I can't read the chart. I wish they would have fixed it. Well, they did finally fix it. And so now this is kind of, a little bull triangle, whatever, but it's a little symmetrical triangle. Here's your flagpole, and now it's gapping up. So that's bullish right there. I'm putting that in a window. See? That's the UNP we talked about. Bravo X-ray, the gap's too big. We're not going to get any premium, and there's no pattern. MMC is bullish consolidation. There's another, big flagpole consolidation. It's not a flag because it's not at a 30-degree angle, more of a bull rectangle, but that's a bullish pattern. Knee gapping down, call spread candidate, Zulu alarm. I had the alarm early. This is one with lovely Rita. We were going through a number of, wow, tick 1250 I'm showing on the tick. Wow. And there's still all these weak stocks. Let's short yesterday's low, stop yesterday's high. It's relative weakness, breakdown daily, weekly. And hopefully it won't trigger for at least 30 minutes. Yeah, Piton, GoDaddy, up alarm. Do y'all remember when I had that on my list? Remember, I tried tricking you yesterday when we were looking for shorts, and I'm like, look at this thing. Bullish consolidation here. All four horsemen are in gear right now. A T that I mentioned is moving. You know what? Let's buy 30-minute high. Stop the week's low. GoDaddy. See, that just gives me time to move on to reassess. But let's look at T. T as in Mr. T. And check puts on GoDaddy too. Buy 30-minute high, stop the week's low. See, I don't have time to make these pretty.